Well, morning guys, we're back in Zulu Neil's workshop again. Today we're going to have a look at the Martini Henry cartridge, the Boxer Henry round. Had so many critics about it, so we're going to have a bit of a look at it so you can see what the men were using at the time. When the Martini Henry was introduced to the British Army in 1874, it had been trialled for 3 years before that, and during that time the original cartridge, the Mark I, was extensively trialled, but it had a tendency to fall apart. So by 1874, the rifle was brought into standard service. It was introduced as a list of change in October 1874, and then it became an immediate issue to the troops. And it's issued with the first cartridge, which is this one, which is the Mark III cartridge. Very similar to the Mark I, with the exception that it had a reinforced base to it. Contained 80 grains of black powder and it carried a 480 grain lead slug. You can see the slug is wrapped in paper patch. The idea with that is that the paper scrubbed the bore of the rifle and prevented lead-to-lead contact. The base itself of the cartridge is made out of Japan steel, and in the bottom there you can see the primer slot and the broad arrows from the Royal Arsenal at Woolwich where these were made. The output of the Royal Arsenal was about 2 million cartridges a week, so it really was something made by child labour. So we're going to have a quick look at the cartridge. The cartridge invented by Edward Mooney Boxer. He was the superintendent of the Royal Laboratories in Woolwich, the manufacturers of the cartridge, and his idea was to take a brass sheet rolled around a mandrel, then formed in a quadrant shaped die. The die had been invented by Ely Brothers, and the die basically compressed the corners of the cartridge and created the classic kind of bottle shape, so you can get more gunpowder in the bottom. It gave a much higher charge, but with a shorter cartridge. The round was designed to expand on firing, seal the breech, then contract and allow the cartridge to be ejected, and therein was the problem. It didn't always happen. And in the fighting in the Sudan, it came to a head in 1885 that dust was attracted to the cartridge cases and the cartridges jammed. Now, the Martini Henry has been much maligned over the last century about the jamming. In fact, the jamming was mainly caused by the cartridge sticking solidly in the breech, and the way to get it out is actually get the clearing rod off the rifle and bang it out down the muzzle. The cartridge itself was very, very strong. In the base here you can see there's a ring here. The Mark III cartridge had a brass reinforcing ring put inside there. Critics and every book you pick up say that the cartridge has a tendency, the extractor, to tear the base off the cartridge. You will find very little or scant evidence to prove that actually happened. On the contrary, it was probably the cartridge being jammed solid which was the problem. And interesting, in the jamming report of 1885, commissioned after the battles of Abu Klea and Abu Kru in the Sudan, a Captain Krabby, who was on the Camel Corps and involved in the fighting, reported the men's rifles jamming, mainly due to the cartridges jamming solidly in the breech. When further questioned, he said he had been Inspector of Musketry at Hythe for 4 years. Had he ever seen the cartridge base plate tore off? He reported no. He must have seen 100,000 rounds fired, so I think it's become basically lost in history. So there we have this classic Mark III rifle round. We've then got the carbine rounds. These were the same size body as the Martini rifle round, with a smaller bullet and a smaller 70 grain powder charge. The original cartridge has a wool filler inside to fill the gap with the air gap between the powder here and the bullet. That was proved to cause misfires, so by late 1878 they lined the case with thick cardboard, which meant that it basically reduced the internal diameter. You can see there's a slightly smaller bullet, and in 1881 they put a red paper patching on the bullet, basically to show that it was a carbine round. In 1885, after the fighting in the Sudan though, the drawn round was introduced. This is a Mark I drawn round from the period, sometime around 1885. These were rushed immediately to Egypt for the men, because it found that these were not causing the same jamming complaints that the Mark III round had got. The ammunition was packaged in paper packets of 10. This is an original packet. Slightly later, it's a Mark III from 1890. Now you can see it says cartridges SA, small arms, ball, Martini Henry, rolled case, and it's a Mark III round from 1890. the actual name rolled case actually was introduced after the solid drawn case was brought in 1885. And there we go, it's packed heads to tails, 10 rounds in there, separated by thin white paper, and the cartridge itself, there we go, that's an original unfired Mark III cartridge. I've also got a packet of commercial ammunition. This is an Ely Brothers cartridge. You see, here we go, Boxer's patent expanding cartridges. You can date this to before 1884 when the patent expired, and there we go, a mint condition original Martini Henry cartridge. We'll look at a couple of bullet heads. These are with a story to tell. This one was fired on the 22nd of January 1879 at San Luana battlefield. You can see the rifling grooves in the bullet there if I spin that round, and in the bottom of the actual bullet you can see where the paper, the original wrapping paper, has forced it into the base of the brass, into the lead, so you can see where that was. Here's another couple of bullet heads. This was fired on March the 4th, 1879 at Kambula battle, which was the turning point of the Zulu War. You can see that's actually hit something and splattered out flat. Kambula is actually on quite a thick rocky plateau, so obviously the cartridge hit the ground and bounced up. We've got here, this is a very historic cartridge case. This is a Martini Henry case, and you can see the primer hole in the bottom where the cartridge has actually been hit by the firing pin. This was fired between 4 o'clock on Wednesday the 22nd of January 1879 and around 3 in the morning on the 23rd. This was fired at Rorke's Drift, so this could have been fired by a Victoria Cross winner made famous in the film Zulu. So we've got it, guys, a little bit of a background of the Martini Henry cartridges. Look out for some more of my instructional videos on YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys.